I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of the District of Columbia, and I'm the co-chair of the New Columbia Statehood Commission for the District of Columbia. I would like to call on this meeting to order of the Statehood Commission and acknowledge that all members are present, including co-chairman, DC Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, including United States Senator Paul Strauss, United States Senator Michael Brown, and United States Representative Franklin Garcia. The time is now, the time is now 3:45. And without objection, I would like to make an addition to the agenda, which would start with a 15-minute public comment period. Any objections? Okay, so I'm adding public comment at the top. The second item will be the approval of the minutes from April 21st. The second item would be the approval of rules of public engagement and input. And the third would be the approval of dates. So with that, I would like to open it up. I'm not sure if we have a microphone here, do we? A handheld? Yes, we do have a handheld. And Tomas will be. If anybody has a question or a comment, I will accept those now.
Hi, I'm David Schwartzman from the DC State of Green Party. I attended the first commission hearing and made pretty much the same comment in the public session. So I want to first of all, say that this initiative is long overdue. However, talking to a lot of statehood advocates, including a delegate to the 1982 convention, Constitutional Convention, which was elected, I have a major concern about pushing through a constitutional convention unelected before the November primary. And I think the choice is either to go with what is already in the New Columbia Admissions Act, which is the 87 amended Constitution, which has gotten the support of 120 people in the House and 20 something in the Senate, or have a constitutional convention after November 6th, which is elected. To make it a bottom-up process, a democratic process, just as the 1982 convention was.
All right, Professor, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Are there further comments? Comment in the back.
Good evening or good afternoon.
Is this a public comment or a press question?
This is a public comment.
Okay.
Okay. This is interesting that you all are doing this since 1982. You all ratified this process in 1982. Let me just say that in order for the district to get statehood, I think it's great you're going out to Iowa. I think it's great that you're going to New Hampshire, but you really need to get the support of Maryland and Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. James
Hello.
Wright.
Hello, I'm Keish Laduahedi, within Ward 3. And my question is, what will this new approach, what effect will it have on the current bill in Congress, the New Columbia Admission Act? And how would you differentiate between the prospects for this new approach on the Hill versus the current New Columbia Admission Act? Would you say that this new approach is expected to get more support?
Okay, we'll try to address your questions during the discussion. Yes.
Hi, my name's Jesse Lovell. I'm Secretary of the DC Statehood Coalition. I just thought I'd note one thing about, Maryland, Virginia, just point of clarification. I mean, I think it's very good news that we have very strong support from Maryland and Virginia public officials. We have support statehood from former Governor O'Malley. We have virtually all of the congressional delegation in Maryland supporting us, co-sponsors of the bill. We also have a number of co-sponsors from Virginia, including Senator Tim Kaine. And I just wanted to make it clear. I mean, there's been a long running effort, going on 5 years now. Certainly doing a lot of outreach to all of these places and more, and it's paying off. I mean, people know about the push for statehood and they know why.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to know, why do you want to start de novo on the start de novo on a constitution when the one in '82 was the result of a constitutional convention, plus it was the result of a vote by the citizens of the district, wherein the '87 Constitution was not the result of a constitutional convention, and neither was it the subject of a vote by a DC resident.
Okay, we made our 15 minutes, and we got 5 public comments that have been noted for the record, and all of the members have heard the questions, and which may be addressed during their comment period. And you have the minutes from the last meeting before you. I had one correction to the minutes, and let me find it now because I think I left my corrections upstairs. It was on the 3rd page, first bullet. It's attributed to Senator Brown, the suggestion of moving the rules working group up into the Statehood Commission leadership group. And I want to correct that to say that was the recommendation of Councilmember Mendelson, and it was approved without, actually, I think there was a vote, and it was a unanimous vote to do so. The other changes? There's been a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The second item for consideration is the approval of the rules of public engagement and input on a revised constitution. And actually, I'm going to ask Ms. Perry to present the recommendations of the Legal Advisory Committee that is part of the packet before you that says public engagement process.
Good afternoon. Madam Chair, the Legal Advisory Team has met and has developed a rules and procedures for public engagement to make sure that the public is involved in the development and the revisions of the Constitution. We have developed the procedures with some guiding principles. The guiding principles are that we would promote the stability by maintaining the district's basic, the current governance structure. We would build upon the work of the statehood efforts from 1980, but simplify and modernize the Constitution. As you heard the mayor say last time, we need a Constitution that's contemporary with our times. We would establish
the structure necessary for good government, empower the legislature and executive to govern in the interests of the people who elect them, would produce orderly and responsible governance, reflect the values of the district residents, and demonstrate the district's merits to congressional admissions as a state. So those would be the guiding principles. The process for consideration of the Constitution would take into account all of the 1982 procedures, and we used the 82 and 87 Constitution as the basis to build upon. We would, with respect for the procedures to be used by the commission, but taken to conduct hearings, we believe that the council's procedures that's currently used by the council would be the rules by which people would give testimony. Each person would be allowed 3 minutes, organizations 5 minutes, and would just have some orderly procedures to make sure. We have no idea how many people will come to testify, but we want to make sure that everyone that does come will have an opportunity. We recognize that unlike in 1982, where the only way to give testimony was live or written, we have allowed procedures that would, the commission could accept testimony from the web. We have the website is active, as the mayor, the chair of this commission noted last time. And the rules that we have proposed to the commission, testimony submitted through the website would be given the same credence as testimony given live, just to make sure that everybody's testimony is given the same weight. And also the engagement procedures to make the timeline that was set out last week by the commission, which would mean that a petition would be submitted to the Board of Elections to certify the questions for the advisory referendum, to make that July 8th deadline. Some things would have to happen, and they would include the release of the Constitution, and that would be next Friday, May 6th, and at the same time, there would be a simultaneous filing with the council to make sure that it would also be before the council in the event the council would like to conduct its own hearings at the same time. So there will be opportunities for public engagement. We have several dates set out, a schedule set out there for public engagement for people to have testimonies. There will be around a town hall meeting in every ward, and we have proposed dates for those town hall meetings. And there would also be a constitutional convention on June 17th and 18th. And we have a committee structure, and that was published last week as well, 5 committees, including all the awards committees, All-American DC Statehood Committee, an Advocacy Committee, Communications Committee, and a Cleveland, Philadelphia Committee. And we've asked people to sign up. For those, you can sign up online, or you can talk to one of the staff people here. And basically, I think that covers the testimony, the rules of engagement, and the schedule is attached.
Okay. So thank you, and I want to thank all the members of the Legal Advisory Committee who weighed in on that. Let me summarize by saying that the guiding principles of how public engagement would be conducted were laid out. The means for public input also laid out in terms of the ability to accept website or other electronic comments. The committees conducting meetings or hearings. The commission conducting town hall meetings in each of the district's 8 wards. A 2-day constitutional convention. The Council of the District of Columbia being able to also conduct hearings, and the Board of Elections being able to conduct hearings to consider the matter for the ballot. And finally, a 2-day constitution to be held in June. And so the way these rules are laid out, it would have all of the feedback and recommendations coming to this commission, and this commission making a vote on a draft that would then be submitted to the Council of the District of Columbia. The point I think that was also made in terms of modernizing and simplifying the structure of the document was to reflect the current operation, the current structure of government, and to make sure that that is reflected in the constitutional document. And we should, and I'm not sure if we already laid out, it was raised at our last meeting, the process for updating the Constitution in future years. So I want to open up the floor for discussion. Senator Brown, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to reiterate my support for this plan. I think that it, first of all, puts us on the offensive, which I really like. I think it's time to be on offense instead of defense. I also think it has great potential to generate momentum, and that's desperately needed in this movement. We really need momentum. As far as the new Columbia Admissions Act goes, this is a question that's been asked to me several times, and I don't see anything here that precludes us from continuing to get co-sponsors for the new Columbia Admission Act, which, by the way, has 131 in the House and 19 in the Senate. I don't see anything here that keeps us from doing that or that stops us from reintroducing similar legislation in the new Congress. I will say that the only peril that I see here is if we get the referendum on the ballot and we don't pass it by a large margin. I think that would be devastating. We saw the marijuana initiative pass with 65%. If we go in there with 64% on this initiative, our people on the Hill who hate us will say these folks care more about smoking pot than they care about being a state. So we not only have to pass this, we have to pass it by a large margin, and imagine how powerful this tool would be if we went up there with 80 or 90% approval from the voters. We should also be aware in doing this that the last time there was a multi-question ballot initiative like this on a ballot for statehood was in Puerto Rico. It didn't turn out really well because in the end they said people were confused. So we need to put some money into getting this done and making sure people understand what they're doing when they go to the polls. Now, Chairman Mendelson at the last meeting acknowledged that we needed to put some money into this, but I think we need to do it quickly because we're moving quickly. And while we're on the subject, I want to state in front of all these people that care about this issue that it's time that we really institute the Tennessee plan and the 3 members of our delegation get compensated the way they were in Alaska and other delegations. Thank you, Mayor.
Senator Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm excited about this public engagement process. First of all, let me congratulate you by beginning our meeting with a public comment section. I think that's the right tone. We want to build on what we did in 1982. We know that there are some members of that constitutional convention that are still active in our community, and we want to honor their work and build on it. I think the process in 1987, while helpful in streamlining that constitution, was less democratic than the one that we're envisioning. It was an act of council only, and I think that's why it's important that this process really engage the public using the modern tools that we have. I like the idea of hearings all over the community. I like the idea of people being able to weigh in using 21st century technology like the internet and broadening it. And of course, what could be more democratic than a constitution that's approved by all of the voters together? So as far as how it impacts on the existing statehood bill, let me just say this. If by some chance the bill that's currently pending in Congress passes, we become a state before we need to go through this process, that would be a very good problem to have and an easy one to solve. There's plenty of better things we can do with the time that we're going to invest in this effort, should we be fortunate enough to get that bill to pass. But in the event that it does not pass, I think that we should really recommit ourselves to this struggle, recognizing that we have a historic election on the horizon, that we were going to have a new president no matter what happens with the Congress. And I think that these are good guidelines and good principles to move forward with. So I thank your team for preparing this, and I look forward to supporting it.
Yeah, I concur with everything that's been said. And so I'm excited about this process. And the only thing I can add is that it falls on the commission to ensure that the public participates in the process. And so the greater the number of people that participate, the louder our statement that we'll be making on this. And so that's all I have to add.
I don't really have anything to add to that.
So I'm excited about the process we have before us, and I would like to acknowledge Chairman Mendelson for his foresight in legislating the creation of this commission, which can provide the leadership for this type of effort or other efforts before us, and can really form the leadership group that will consider all of the public feedback, updating the Constitution. And I will say that we have gotten very positive feedback from the Congresswoman about the process that has been set up, including modernizing the Constitution. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that being very clear and having a document that reflects our current structure, which works pretty well for our local governments, it doesn't work well for our relationship with the other states and to the Congress. And so I think that is going to be very helpful. Members, before you have the process that has been recommended by our legal advisory team, and I would like to put it on the table for your approval. Is any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thirdly, I should say, we have before us a series of dates, and we are still locking down locations, and these dates refer to dates in the document before you. And so largely we want your approval for a date to release a draft constitution to the public and start the public comment process on a draft. I think the committee also suggested that we could at the same time, and Chairman, I'd like your feedback on this, make a filing to the council, which would give you the opportunity to begin work with it on the council. That process, I think when we initially talked about this, we thought it could wait until the convention had actually happened, but then you would only have a very short period to consider it. So if that is in keeping with how you think the council could best handle it, not only would the draft document be released, but it would also be attached to a filing at the council.
I think that would be fine. The council is unlikely to do anything until after our consideration of the budget. Say, at the end of the
Okay. So the target date then for that work to happen is next Friday, May the 6th. And I think we would be having a Statehood Commission meeting as well in the release of that document. And we plan to do it at the Lincoln Cottage at 140 Rock Creek Church Road next Friday at 2 p.m. The next meeting would be Monday, May 9th, a presentation, and I'm sure the committee will let us know who's going to be able to lead that. The presentation to ANC commissioners citywide. And then the next date, Thursday, May the 12th, the commission would have a kickoff meeting with participants of the working groups. And then the public engagement meetings would begin between May 26th and June 8th in each of the district's 8 wards. Are there any questions or comments? And there are some additional dates, but those are the ones on the front end. Any questions, concerns, additions to the schedule you see before you? Okay, I would accept a motion to approve it. Thank you, Senator. Second, please. Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any further business, questions? Okay, let me remind members of the public that you can sign up for working groups. You'll find the meetings from these minutes at www.statehood.dc.gov. And the commission plans to meet again on next Friday, May the 6th, and that meeting will be held at the Lincoln Cottage. We're adjourned.